Welcome to another video by your friend, Matthew. I'm going to be reading a passage from Awakening Shakti by Sally Kempton. Here it goes. Shankara was the founder of Advaita Vedanta, arguably the most influential school of Indian philosophy. Though he lived in the 8th century in India, Shankara's vision of ultimate reality is still very much alive. It is a foundation of the modern Hindu movement that was brought to the West by teachers like Swami Vivekananda. Every time you pick up a book with a title like Wake Up Now or Awakening from the Dream, you are reading teachings that were likely influenced by Shankara. His teachings point out different methods for disidentifying with the body and personality, and to realize the absolute as a pure, boundless awareness, free of forms, which he called Brahman. He saw the physical and subtle universe as a dream, projection, a magic trick, endlessly alluring, ephemeral, and ultimately painful. Only by penetrating through the dream, he might say, can you recognize your true self, which is pure awareness, free of content, free of forms, and identical with the formless absolute. It was him who wrote, "The absolute is real, the world is unreal, and the individual soul is the absolute." Shankara and his followers metaphorically describe the physical and social universe as a burning ocean of endless suffering, no more real than a cloud castle, yet always ready to delude and trap the unwary. In his view, the cosmic villainess behind the whole mistake was the feminine power known as Maya, mistress of illusion and trickery. Maya, he might say, is an incomprehensible cosmic power that veils the true nature of this world. Maya makes us think that the one is actually many, and that the world is separate from our own consciousness. Because Maya is considered feminine, all women were seen as tainted with Maya's illusory power, and were therefore dangerous to anyone who sought truth. Of course, Shankara had part of the story right. Awareness is indeed the ground of everything. The problem was that he only saw half the picture. His greatest misperception had to do with the role of the Shakti, not to mention the body itself. Instead of recognizing that the world is itself made of sacred energy, or Shakti, he saw it as a mirage superimposed on reality. Instead of recognizing the body as a sacred vessel, he saw it as impure. Instead of recognizing the feminine as the creative power of life, he saw her as the enemy of truth. Human women with their alluring bodies trap men with sex, lure them into family life, and then fill their lives with so much activity that the poor guys have no space to recognize reality. Shankara and his followers, like the early followers of the Buddha, gave up home and family life to become wandering monks. They created a powerful tradition of world renunciation. Even today, some teachers of this form of non-duality still say that trying to improve your worldly life is like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Since it's all illusion anyway, why get upset about the destruction of the forests and the ocean or the suffering of homeless children? Though Shankara might not have gone that far, his teachings had a profoundly world-denying flavor. Then he met the goddess. It happened like this. One day, as Shankara wandered through the South India, he found himself on the bank of a river in flood. Shankara was fearless. He had faced down tigers. He had seen through the world illusion. So what was the problem with a flood? He waded into the river and soon found himself up to his chest in rushing water. Then a weird thing happened. His body stopped working. standing on one leg in the middle of a swift-moving river, with the other leg lifted to find his next foothold, he froze. His strength gone, his will paralyzed, Shankara panicked. For the first time in his life, he knew the terror of being completely powerless. He realized that if he didn't get moving, he could drown. Then he heard a cackling laugh. An old forager woman, bent with the weight of her years of labor, stood on the opposite bank. Desperately, Shankara called to her, "Help! Get help!" The crone raised her head and looked fully into his eyes. She laughed again, her laughter foaming over until it filled the sky. Then she dove into the river, and in a few swift strokes swam to where he floundered. She seized him around the chest and pulled him to shore. "Shankara," she said, "you preach that women are a trap. You say that this world is an illusion. You won't so much as look at a woman. But can't you see that your strength comes from Shakti? What happens when you lose your Shakti? Without Shakti, you couldn't even move your limbs. So why do you insult Shakti? Why do you insult the goddess? Don't you know that I am everything? Don't you know that you can't live without me?" In that moment, the story goes, Shankara realized that he had been not denying the obvious. He had been insulting his own life energy, without which he would not even exist. He bowed down to the goddess, for indeed the old woman was the goddess herself. Moreover, he became a closet Shakta Tantrika, a lover of the sacred feminine power within the world. He kept his conversion more or less secret. After all, he was an official world renouncer. But today in South India, many officials of his orders of Indian monks worship the goddess.